Hi. Today, in the Global Take with me, Ariel Cohen, we're going to look at the two candidates that recently had their debate and look forward to what kind of American foreign policy we may get after the election. Depends, of course, on who is going to win. So the candidates were pretty clear. They see the U.S. still being the global leader. We're still sort of the largest economy in the world, although the challenge from China is indeed defining the 21st century for the United States and will continue doing so in the foreseeable future. I listened to one of our leading foreign policy gurus, Fareed Zakaria, who has a program on CNN, and he quoted one of the CEOs of a high-tech companies, American companies, who said that across the board in the advanced computing, quantum computing, supercomputing, etc., the Chinese are at the par, if not ahead of us. The Chinese also, as you know, have developed a very serious infrastructure for their country that in some respects the US is behind, such as the high-speed trains. So Trump and his entourage are looking at China as a competitor, but there's also a political issue there in terms of what the Trump administration wants and will want from China. They will stress deals that strengthen their base, be it agriculture with, let's say, soybeans, selling more soybeans to China, or selling natural gas, which China used to buy and is not buying anymore because of our trade friction. The Biden people will probably try to bring the tension down, but they have to emphasize the Chinese stealing of the American intellectual property in high-tech and biotech and in other areas. We have to oppose the Chinese efforts to force American and other Western companies providing technology transfer. If you invest in China, you have to provide your technology to the Chinese companies in due course. So that has to stop as well. Furthermore, the Biden administration is probably going to be more multilateral. They would want to build the coalition that the Trump administration is also focusing on. India, Japan, Vietnam, Korea, Taiwan, all these countries, Australia, all these countries will play a role in building a coalition to balance off, if not to say contain Beijing. I very much hope that whoever is elected will manage to do this, will manage to build the coalition and balance China without triggering a conflict. We have to be careful. And in order not to have a war, you have to have a very strong military. So looking forward, hypersonic missiles, space sensors, space defenses, maybe new defenses for large American ships, surface platforms, the new generation of nuclear weapons and of submarines that are coming. These are all very expensive things, very expensive for the American taxpayer. And think about this for a moment. The Pacific is probably twice as big as the Atlantic. So in the Cold War with the Soviet Union, we had to build the Navy, the Air Forces, the missiles, but the distances were twice as short as they will be in the Pacific as the new Cold War with China is developing. And keep in mind that the Biden agenda is much more expensive than the Trump agenda. He wants the government option for health care. He wants free college education for a lot of folks. He wants the Green New Deal. These are all trillions of dollars when the defense of the realm is at stake. So there's a big challenge and conflict right there. Going beyond China, looking at the Middle East, the Trump, if reelected, will continue pressure on Iran. I think this pressure Tehran richly deserves. I was not a supporter of the Obama deal with Iran, the JCPOA. And if Biden is elected, I think he'll try to resuscitate and bring back JCPOA, having given the Iranians now the period that they went through was not easy under Trump in terms of sanctions, in terms of low oil prices. But keep in mind also that America's allies in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Israel, Egypt, they all are opposing Iran. And if we empower Iran, not only we threaten our allies, we threaten such a big oil producer and strategic country for which thousands of Americans gave their life and their limb, Iraq, because a strong Iran is influencing the Iraqi government through the majority Shia population. And of course, there will be other challenges in the Middle East. Turkey is becoming very assertive. We saw it in Libya, in Syria, in the Armenian-Azerbaijani conflict in Karabakh that I commented upon. So how we build our relationship with Turkey when Turkey is sort of leaving the West. You remember the expression, Russia is leaving the West, when Putin came to power? Now Erdogan is also leaving the West, creating a lot of frictions with Turkey's NATO allies, with Greece, with France, with others. So that particular patch, Eastern Mediterranean, is also going to be challenging to whoever the next commander-in-chief is going to be. And now to my favorite topic, Russia. Russia is in an interesting place. It's stronger relative to a lot of its neighbors, let's say, stronger than Ukraine, it's stronger than Poland, than Romania, than Kazakhstan, or Georgia. But relatively speaking, the economic growth in Russia is not great. Russia is a big oil and gas exporter, and because of the COVID slowdown, people are buying less energy. They're buying less oil because they're driving less. They're buying less gas because the industry is not cranking as much. And the Europeans, the major Russian energy market, are trying to dial down fossil fuels and move to the renewables. So the Russian midterm and long-term outlook is not so hot, but it's going to be assertive. It's going to be neo-imperialist as it is trying to reassert its influence in the former Soviet Union, be it with Ukraine, the Crimea, and the Caucasus, with Georgia, Azerbaijan and Armenia, or in Central Asia. So Trump has sort of a personal sympathy or warm feeling to Putin. I don't know why, but the Trump administration actually imposed more sanctions on Russia than its predecessor, the Obama administration. And I think even if Trump is reelected, that trend will continue, and also because the Senate and the House both have strong majorities in favor of imposing more sanctions on Russia. And Russia regularly gives the United States and to Europe a good reason to impose sanctions. The last one I can think about is the alleged poisoning of Alexei Navalny, the opposition leader, after which the EU and now the United States eventually will impose sanctions, although the Trump administration did not yet. Too busy with the elections and other things. But Russia will continue to be a challenge in Europe, and hopefully, regardless who is elected, the Europeans themselves, NATO, will step up to the plate and spend more money. By the way, they themselves, the Europeans and the Americans, have decided in 2014 to put up to 2% of their GDP, gross domestic product, to the military budgets. The Germans, the richest country in Europe, did not do that. So that friction of us telling them to please step up to the plate has to continue and will continue. But the optics and the atmosphere with Biden, of course, will be much, much better than now, because he will be less emphatic and less critical of our European allies. And as to the trade with Europe, I think the Biden administration will try to revive the talks that were going on under Obama to create some kind of a free trade area between the United States and Europe, and maybe even to prod and see if we can do something with the free trade vis-a-vis Asia. Very important, because China, of course, is becoming almost a hegemonic power in Asia. The Chinese economy alone is 4 times bigger, is twice as big, I think, as the Chinese economy alone is bigger than the 4 economies behind it, such as Japan, India, Germany, etc. So big economy, big footprint, especially in Asia. A couple of other important things. Afghanistan, the United States lost thousands of lives in Afghanistan, of our soldiers. Thousands of wounded came back to the United States. And our challenge in Afghanistan is to prevent it from becoming the terror base as it was during the days of Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. Trump wants to withdraw all the troops. He wants to bring as many soldiers home before Christmas, and then leave a minimal anti-terror contingent in Afghanistan. And also we need to leave some trainers and others in Iraq to prevent the Iranian takeover. But as I already said, the Middle East will remain a rocky ride for the United States. Thankfully, less important, because we are almost self-sufficient now with oil. Even if we bring oil from the Middle East, we export oil products, so it is not as strategic as it is used to be. One other potentially dangerous place, North Korea. Trump thought that he will be able to use a combination of charm and bullying to force the North Korean leader, Kim, to give up nuclear weapons. No such luck. Many administrations, started with George W. Bush and Obama, tried to nuclear disarm North Korea. Didn't manage so far, and I'm afraid, unfortunately, we will not manage to do it. So the question is, what kind of deterrence you need, what kind of incentives you need to make their program more transparent. And remember, they are really a protege of China. The Chinese, to a great extent, are influencing the posture of Pyongyang, of the Kim regime, vis-a-vis South Korea, Japan, and the United States. So, as you can see, many challenges. China first and foremost, both economically and militarily in the Pacific. I very much hope and pray we will not have a clash over the artificial islands the Chinese have created in order to expand their territorial waters. I hope we will not clash over Taiwan, but in terms of the economic competition, this is going to be huge. Russia, a nuclear power capable of destroying the United States if the balloon goes up, if we have a full nuclear exchange, which of course will be suicidal for Russia as well. Improving the relations with Europe would be nice, but not at the expense of the United States. The Middle East, as long as they are not exporting terror, violence, religious extremism, I think will be in good shape there. Finally, let's not forget Latin America. Latin America is in a difficult economic situation right now. We need to help our friends and neighbors there, not to neglect them as many administrations have done before. Remain with us on this channel, share it, like it, and I will continue providing a running commentary on our difficult and challenging world as we go forward. Thanks a lot. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to get more content like this.